off a little bit. The evaporation has slowed down. That's my best explanation. Okay. That's much too long on just the Ice Age. Sir?
So in terms of Pangaea, do we say that the continents actually moved north or south, or in terms of the plate tectonics?
In terms of plate tectonics.
Do they believe that it moved north, farther north?
To make the Ice Age?
Yeah.
Yes and no. It depends on if you're talking to an evolutionist or creationist, and it depends on which evolutionist you're talking to. You don't need the continents to move north to get them to freeze. What you need is the freezing line to move south. Or actually, most of this right here, this is mountain chains. This got stopped by a bunch of mountain chains. The snow was falling up here, and as the ice built up, it flowed down. So you don't even have to have it snow down here. It could be plenty warm down there, but there's so much snow flowing downhill that the ice builds up the southern in more southerly regions.
So we just believe that it just moved.
Now, you asked a plate tectonic question. I'm a biologist, right? So I get to avoid this question. I have got very good friends within young Earth creationism who are geologists who think each one is completely wrong. I got one guy who's a plate tectonics person. You know, John Baumgartner's invented his catastrophic plate tectonics. Oh yeah, some creationists who really believe a lot of plate tectonics, rapid plate tectonics. This guy over here thinks continents have never moved. He's got lists of evidence. This guy's got lists of evidence. Beats me. However, just because we have two competing models doesn't mean it's bad. It's good to have competing models in science. Which is why when politicians talk about scientific consensus, I get really scared. Because there's no such thing as consensus in science. The whole thing about science is trying to prove the other guy wrong. Consensus? Global warming consensus? When did that happen? Anyway. So I don't know if the continents moved or not. I suspect, actually, they probably did. I don't know how far and how much. Walt Brown in his hydroplate theory, which I don't follow, but he did point out something very interesting, that South America and Africa really don't match. But if you separate them by about 1,000 miles, they match perfectly, and there's about 1,000 miles of material missing there, which might make up what's on top of the continents. But beats me. Sir?
It's interesting that there is a group of theologians, which I happen to believe, that ascribe to God the reason for the worldwide flood was genetic in nature, in that in Genesis chapter 6, verse 4, in the description of the Nephilim being the product of the sons of God and the daughters of Adam, was a mixing of angelic genes with human females, which polluted the gene pool, which really irritated God enough to be able to create a worldwide flood. It's also confirmed in Jude chapter 6. So there's a double reference to the whole thing. Do you have anything to say about that?
Yes, I'm going to stay decidedly neutral. I'm going to stay decidedly neutral. Christian commentators have been writing about the Nephilim and the Jude question for a long time. And they've basically fallen into two main camps with several sub-camps and one other parallel camp. That is that the Nephilim were fallen angels, and the other camp is that the sons of God are descendants of Seth, and the sons of man are descendants of Cain. I'm not real comfortable with either of these answers because I don't know why people who are closer related coming together would produce giants. But I'm not comfortable with the angel idea either because I'm not convinced that God gave angels the ability to create the things that are necessary to impregnate a human female. Should we say it that way? Not structure-wise, I meant genetics, and that makes me uncomfortable. I don't know what the answer is. I fall back in a position saying that we've got 11 chapters. In the first couple chapters of Genesis, 11 chapters cover 1,500 years of history. And they really don't hear much about the Nephilim. Yeah, it could have been genetic in nature, but God cursed man, not the Nephilim, when he when he was talking to Noah. So, there's so many sides to this question. I don't know what the answer is. And it's one place where I just throw up my hands. There are other places that I used to actually have an opinion on this topic, and I don't anymore. Other places in Scripture where I used to have a very strong opinion, and I've been forced to say that maybe I'm just full of myself and I should just stop talking. So that's my best answer, trying to dodge the bullet. I do have opinions on other things, but, Sir.
Can you tell us your opinion about the so-called Big Bang? I think it's total nonsense.
Big Bang?
When you have an explosion, things get worse, don't get better.
What I would do is I would just refer you to some of the writings of Russ Humphreys or John Hartnett, who have attempted to take Einstein's physics and say that it perfectly fits with a young Earth model. Because, now I'm not saying I agree with this again, I'm not a physicist, I'm a biologist, I don't do double integral calculus. They do. But what they say is that Einstein showed us that time is relative, and so when someone asks a question, how old is the universe, you say, by whose clocks? Because if the universe actually has a center and an edge, the clocks tick at different rates depending on where you are in the universe. In fact, vastly different rates. The clocks on Earth would be much slower near the center of mass than the clock would be at the edge in some distant galaxy. So, but it's all speculative. I think we're going to be very surprised about a lot of stuff as